Hi everyone, and welcome to the Big Girls on the Move conversation for today. It's been a fabulous week. Some of you may have seen the video that from our handover of a box of the Big Girls Little Colouring books to Catherine House, supporting homeless women through recovery and empowerment. On the Big Girls on the Move page, there is a little video clip of that. So thanks again to everybody for your contributions. Even the likes on our page show that people are thinking about us and are enjoying the campaign. It has slowed down a little bit on the contributions, so I would like to maybe suggest that as Easter is coming up, traditionally in the Christian traditions, a time of renewal and rebirth, and in the pre-Christian traditions, the goddess Estra, who was all about abundance and nature. So maybe as like an Easter project, you might like to think about hosting a colouring and conversation circle at home as a fundraiser for the program. If you click on the GoFundMe campaign in the description, there's a download pack that gives you some mandalas to sit and colour, some information about statistics and facts around domestic violence. There's Sal's chopped chip cookie recipe in there if you'd like to have a bake up for your colouring and conversation circle. So the Big Girls Little Colouring book. We have placed 5 boxes of 36 books, which is around about 180 books, into domestic violence services because of you and the people who support our campaign. So thank you so much. And today's actually conversation is about an aspect of the book, and it's particularly for those who are interested in the mandala process, but also for the people who are recipients of the book, for the agencies. You can see on the screen there, that is one of the mandalas, and it's towards the back of the book. So the book really is set up as a relaxation book, but it's also the life coaching components there. And that particular mandala talks about how the future is in our hands. Now, we know realistically that many things are out of our hands. When we pick up the phone and we hear some terrible news, it's out of our hands. But what is in our hands is how we respond to the difficulties of life. Pardon me. And that's where the coaching process is really valuable, because women will often say, I want to be able to deal better with what's happened, but I don't know how. So we can offer strategies and information, but I think one of the most important things we can offer is connection with the hands. So here in South Australia, we're on Ghana Aboriginal country, and the word for hands is maras. So there's a little page here from my website. I don't know if you can quite see the writing clearly, but it's from the book, and it's "Wonderful things are now in my hands." The image, the coloured one's particularly special to me because my beautiful mother Maureen coloured that. In the first few months when I was designing the book, I would give Mum templates and she'd colour them for me as I was sort of able to then see what the book was going to be looking like, the coloured version, even before I'd printed it. Mum passed away in 2015, so whenever I share that image, I always think about how that reflects Mum's beautiful creative spirit and how fortunate I was to inherit her love of colour and creativity. So how the hands conversation in a women's empowerment group, in a domestic violence service, or in a community group develops is really from that first black and white template. And in the book here, don't know how clearly you'll be able to see that, but that's pretty well what it looks like as it's just its own black and white template, kind of like a labyrinth. The shape is there, and we're going to put our colour, maybe our conversations and our relaxation into that space. And you can see that many people will interpret in their own way. Everybody will have an individual approach. So if I'm hosting a colouring and conversation circle, and there's 20 women there, when we all hold up our piece at the end, there will be 20 different versions of that one template. And that's where it's really useful in the colouring process, which I've spoken about in other videos. It's a very effective tool for meditation. So in that colouring space, thinking about the hands, we may be having a conversation about the hands, then there's a sense of reconnection to the hands, particularly after the trauma of violence. So one of the difficulties for many women is the hands have been used to protect or to work out ways to keep safe, to organise her life in such a way that if she's caught in that domestic violence cycle, that she can avoid things happening. So often there isn't time for creative fun and pleasure and gardening and creating things. So in a sense, when we connect with the hand mandala, we're reconnecting with the beauty of our hands, our caring hands, hands that do things for other people, that do things for ourselves, that wave goodbye, that make meals. So it really is more than just colouring in a picture. So in our reflective process, when we're sitting and colouring with the book, this is in a group sense, but also the book and the colouring mandala process is really restful and resourceful for women who are in emergency motel accommodation. And people outside of the domestic violence sector, here in South Australia at least, may not know that there are a number of levels of domestic violence support. And sometimes, if there isn't a place available in a crisis shelter, women and children, will be housed in temporarily in a motel. It's called emergency motel accommodation. So having a book to sit with when life is in complete chaos and turmoil, when the children are in bed and she's just sitting there really processing what's happened and so immersed in the uncertainty of the future in those very early days after leaving, having a book to just sit and relax with really is very meditative. So I also host home colouring circles. I host a meetup group called Colouring and Conversation Circles. And you can see there how I've set the table up. We've got the colouring pencils in the centre. I think we have the woman statue there. So if you consider creating a home colouring circle, and particularly if you'd like to do one as a fundraiser for our campaign, part of the fun is just preparing the space. I say we always like bake some cookies. Everyone usually brings some food to share, and then we sit and colour. And sometimes we do have a theme, or other times we just sit and chat and share our stories. Sometimes tears rise, sometimes ideas come up, and someone will say, "What do you think about that?" And then we can offer ideas. So it really is what I think of as a return to that village setting. And I have said numerous times on our videos here that I do consider the women's domestic violence sector to be the women's village, where women support women and men often support the women in that process. But on site, on service delivery, women support women. So this is another form of hand mandala, or handalas, as I sometimes call them. That was to celebrate 30 years of service, of Northern Domestic Violence Service, one of Adelaide's longest established domestic violence services. And we came together as a group, everyone traced their hands and decorated it, and then on a wooden circle, we placed those hands to represent the coming together, which is what happens a lot in domestic violence services. So although a woman's on her own individual unique journey, she's also part of a group for a period of time. And sometimes being a part of a group and having a safe space, a peaceful space, to share the story about what has happened can really be the first point of healing for her. So the representation of the hands as the part of who we are and bringing those into our shared space holds great symbolism, and And it's very enriching to be in that experience. Now I just need to check to see if my comments section's on. I have no comments here. So just in closing about the hands, Carl Jung says, and I quote him often, he's on my business card, "Sometimes the hands can solve a mystery that the intellect has struggled with in vain." And what that's really saying is we're often conditioned to think things through, think about it, what are you going to do? And these sort of very, often very rigorous intellectual process to make things happen. And our hands can be forgotten in that process. If anybody watching is a doodler, you know that sitting in meetings sometimes when you doodle can just help you to even listen more, think deeper, because the hands are being engaged rather than just sitting with them still. If you look to children, we know that children's hands are rarely still. They're always moving, always creating, always thinking, always wanting to do. And that often gets conditioned out of us as we go through the educational system, where that rich movement and creativity of the kindergarten place is no longer happening, and we're more sedentary in our learning. So I just finished by inviting you to click on our GoFundMe campaign, which is in the description. If you have any questions, or if you have coloured one of these mandalas and have one in your Big Girls Little Colouring Book, I'd love for you to upload it onto the comments section below. And maybe even share a little bit about how that colouring process how it impacts you, why you do it. That would be great, because it's good to share information and share our personal experiences rather than me just always promoting it. So I'm a big fan of the shared experience, not just the presenter or the facilitator. So thank you again. It's really a great pleasure to be able to sit and share some of these stories with you. I'd like to also thank David Salomon, who's always behind the camera making sure that this can happen for our weekly lives. Our schedule now is every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, and then on Saturday, but a little more informal, where I hope to share with you things like from my garden and some of the stories of my chickens. So thanks very much, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.